Morning. We're here today with Joy working on Leave It. There's many different ways to teach Leave It, but the basic concept behind Leave It is to get the dog to redirect their mind and to turn their attention from whatever it is they see they want back to you, and to back away from whatever that item is. So, for instance, if you're walking down the street and there's a dead bird on the side of the street, you want to be able to say Leave It and have your dog turn away from that, attention onto you, and keep walking so that they don't go and try to pick up things that are gross or poisonous or dangerous or anything else. Leave It can also be used for a cat if you don't want the dog pestering the cat. Of course, the cat is high stimulus, so if they get to a certain threshold, they won't even listen to you when you say Leave It. They tune you out. So you have to anticipate when they're going to go after the cat or whatever, and prepare ahead to keep that threshold of energy down so that they don't lose control. And then you can redirect them to you a little bit better. So to start with, to teach Leave It, come here, Joey. What I like to do is just teach the dog the basic concept and vocabulary. Okay, so she's got to kind of get the idea of what Leave It means. So what I'm doing is this hand has several treats in it that are a reward. This hand has just one treat in it. This is the hand that I'm going to say Leave It. So I start to present it to her, and if she kind of goes for it, I close my hand. Now, I don't pull it away, because if I pull it away, she's liable to jump for it. So I'm just going to close it, and then she backs off, yes, and she gets her reward. Now notice I haven't said the command Leave It yet. I want her to get the concept that I'm waiting for her to back away from it. Yes, good girl. And it might only be for a second that her attention goes to something else. Yes, good girl. Or she might turn and look at you for several seconds. Ready? Now I'm going to introduce the word Leave It. So I'm presenting the treat. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. Leave it. Yes. And this is a good treat. So this is really good self-control and impulse control for her to not go for it. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. Leave it. Yes. Good job. And so each time I'm going down a little bit further, Leave it, so that I'm making it harder and harder for her. Because when it gets into her territory and it gets on the floor, she thinks it's hers. And she thinks she has the right to go for it. So I got to do it a little bit at a time, coming down and teaching her to Leave it. Leave it. Yes. And you always want to set her up for success. So obviously you're not putting it right in front of her face, giving her a little space. Ready? Leave it. Yes. Excellent. Leave it. Yes. So that time she kind of went for it, so I did the which tells her not what I'm looking for. Leave it. Good girl. Leave it. Yes. Okay, so now, and I'm just giving her little tiny pieces from my reward hand. And she's figured out very quickly that this is where the reward is, not this. And to pay attention to this. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. Now, I'm going to take it one step further. Leave it. And I'm putting it on the floor. Good girl. Down. Down. Okay, so now I'm going to put her in a down, because if she's down and her face is right there by the treat, it's even harder. Hopefully you can see this. So Leave it. Leave it. Leave it. And you have to be quick, because you don't want her to get the one you've said Leave it. Yes, good girl. I'm going to put a little closer. Leave it. She almost got it. Look, look. I'll kind of help her out. Look at me. Yes, good girl. Okay, ready? Ready? Leave it. Look at me. Look. Yes. Okay. Oh, she got it that time. I failed. I wasn't fast enough. So yeah, you do have to be quick because obviously if she gets it, then you've kind of taken a step back and you have to remind her again that she's not supposed to touch it, and you want to always set her up for success. So you don't want to make it too hard, too fast. But she's doing pretty well. So now, and I don't know, let me adjust the camera for a sec. There we go. What I want to do now is I'm going to put the treat on her paw. Once it's touching her, it's kind of like with kids, oh, it's touching me, I need it, I need it. It's much more enticing and hard to leave it alone. Ready? Leave it, so you go real slow. Leave it. Yes, good girl. Try the other paw. Look at me. Look. Leave it. Some puppies have a really hard time with this because they don't want something touching their foot. But she's doing pretty good. Down. 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 There you go. Ready? Leave it. Yes, good girl. So she left it for a good long time there. So basically, she has the concept of what leave it means, that I want her to look away from it, preferably look at me. She doesn't always, sometimes she just sits there and kind of stares at the treat. But if they don't look at you, you want to kind of remind them and say, look, look at me, to get their attention off of the treat. So now we're going to make it a little bit more difficult. So basically, now that she knows the concept, we have to transfer that to anything that's on the floor, okay? If you are walking toward something and you see it, you get excited and you want to go for it, okay? So she's going to show you how, if there's a pile of treats, it's much harder than what we were just doing. Okay. Now, I'm putting her on a leash because I need to be able to control her, because just like before, we don't want to let her get those treats. If we've said leave it. I'm putting a pile of treats, big treats on the floor. Come, touch, good girl. And what we're going to do is we're going to start walking towards those treats, and she's going to see it and see how she's pulling towards it, and we say leave it. Yes. Good girl. And we pull her away, or not pull, but lead her away. Yes. Because I want her to have some self-control. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. And she kind of looked over her shoulder at me like she was trying to pay attention and see what I wanted. Good. See, now she didn't want to go near it. Good girl. Yes. Good girl. Okay, come here. And eventually, come, touch, touch. Yes. Eventually, you get to a point you can walk right by those treats. Leave it. Yes. And then have her continue on. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. So what that does is it allows you then to go out for a walk. You see the dead bird. You're walking toward it. She sees it. You say, leave it. She should be able to walk around it or to turn around and come back toward you, whatever's easiest depending on the situation. But she's doing real good. Look at that self-control. Yeah, you know not to go for it, don't you? That's a good girl. Now, some dogs like to chew on sticks, leaves, mulch is a big one. And one of the things, come here. One of the things that you want to encourage your dog to do is to leave that stuff alone.
because obviously you don't want her getting sick from eating something she shouldn't. So how do you transfer this to mulch? Well, you take a handful of mulch, you bring it in your house, you put it on the floor, and you walk towards it. Now, because it's something different than the food she just did, she's going to go back to the basics where she's going to go for it. So you start over and you say leave it and you get her to go away. Now, obviously the further back you are from whatever the item is, the more self-control she'll have. If you get too close to it, then she's going to have a harder time. And again, we want to set her up for success so you don't go too far too fast. So you put the mulch down, you walk towards it, say leave it. As soon as you see her kind of want to go for it, say leave it, and then get her as far away from it as possible. You can also do that with slippers or shoes. Like I said, the cat. Practice inside with the cat. It's best to practice and perfect it indoors first. As soon as you go outside, you have all kinds of stimulus, and it makes it much harder to keep her focus. So leave it is probably one of the most valuable things that you can teach a dog. And when they get really good at it, they don't even think twice. As soon as you say leave it, they turn around and they come back. Come. Good girl. And that is how we have taught Joy to do leave it. Good girl.